back, everyone. I'm glad to be back recording and wanted to go over some of the changes in life that I have had and also let you know, as I've said before, but this time with much more conviction in my voice, that I'm going to start recording more. I've been working on episodes in my absence, but other things in life just kept taking priority. For one, as many of you may have recognized by listening to my previous episodes, I may have a gigantic crush on Emilia Clarke. Well, and I'm sorry, Emilia, you waited too long. I'm married now, so you missed your opportunity. I know, you're heartbroken. Hide your tears, it's okay. Also, taking a lot of my time, my fiancée, now wife, helped me understand there's more to planning a wedding than a preacher and a cake. A lot more. So my time was not devoted to the podcast. Anyway, the wedding was a lovely ceremony and a great honeymoon, but now back to work. And yes, my wife knows of my infatuation with Emilia Clarke and has decided to humor me that if Emilia ever wants to come over for dinner, she is more than welcome. Other than my attentions being diverted from Emilia Clarke and wedding planning, the practice has been growing like crazy too. We're seeing more patients, doing more procedures, and hiring more staff, as well as finishing some of the painting in the clinic and other construction projects as well. It's been a hectic few months. Not to mention I came down with COVID-19, which was not the highlight of my last few months. So today I want to talk about COVID a little more and how it affects animals, the human version that is affecting animals, not by infecting them, but by affecting our lives. I preach so much about COVID and how we all have to take responsibility to fight COVID in previous episodes, and I was very frustrated during my sickness with how non-seriously people were taking the disease. Because selfishly, I didn't want to get it. I will never be able to tell where I got it from, but I'm pretty sure I got it from interacting with clients while keeping their animals healthy. So think about that. In order to do my job, I contracted a disease that kept me from doing my job. Maybe the value of people working at a grocery store and nurses just went up. Because when they aren't there, who can serve you? That's exactly what happened with me. I wasn't able to go to work. Sick animals were not being seen. Sure, part of that was the mandated quarantine, which I followed so as not to infect anyone else. And sure, I answered questions over the phone for my staff, but eventually things went downhill. I developed a high fever and felt delirious and could barely get out of bed for 2 days. Guess what? No one was getting veterinary advice then. I'm the only veterinarian in my county and one of the few large animal vets around, and when people called the office, they were told to go elsewhere. For some, their options were very limited. Now, praise be to God, I wasn't overly concerned for my life, though I have clients and staff that months and years after infection are still suffering from COVID's long-term effects. I was fine, but I did hate the inconvenience. And the people that called that had a few other options for their pets, I think were concerned for their pets' lives and well-being. The ordeal started for me with feeling tired. There were 2 to 3 days where I was at work, and by about 2 o'clock, I felt ready for bed. I had to push through the day. I remember I saw appointments and did surgeries, but I just got through them as quickly as I could so I could get home. I felt bad, but just thought I had been overworking myself. About the 3rd day, I felt a little bit of a sore throat. The sore throat felt different than others, a slightly different location maybe. I couldn't quite place it, but the onset was not like allergies or from me working outside too much, so I took a COVID test. Came back a very quick and strong positive. As I said, it continued until I was down and out. After the 2 days, the worst was over, but I was so exhausted I could barely do anything. I just remember the effort for sitting up, then standing up, then going to the front door to collect food care packages from my family and neighbor. Thankfully, by the end of the quarantine, I was tired but able to go back to work. I was just so mad because maybe I didn't have to get this if more people took the outbreak seriously. and didn't make it a political issue. Many of my clients are the ones that didn't take this virus seriously, yet they were still negatively affected because when I caught the virus, I could not help them. My problems were thankfully fairly limited, and I think the after effects of the virus were gone in a few weeks. But so many people were hurt more than just an inconvenience of finding a vet further away. People lost their lives and their loved ones during the pandemic. What effect has that had? If they had pets, those pets may have had to find new homes. If they ran a business, what happened to the business employees? My employees didn't really conceive I would die, but I knew they were concerned if I had long-term symptoms. Would my long-term symptoms make it harder for me to work and harder for my business to generate payroll? I was very unhappy with the world and how it responded to this threat. Yeah, I knew the human race would survive, but I saw this COVID outbreak as practice for how we would respond to a bigger threat, a disease more deadly. I'm sure we did not rise to the challenge. But that is why we are still here, to learn and improve and keep doing the best we can. COVID helped me. I found my wife because of it. It also showed how closely of a bond we have with animals, from the virus's origins to the effects we see of how a healthy populace is crucial to keeping the nation functioning. Or really how a healthy world populace is crucial to keeping society running. If all the vets are sick, who can care for your animals? If all the farmers are sick, who can grow your cheeseburger? And it also showed me that I have to keep doing my best and adapting to the world around me. I can't be complacent, and I can't stop learning. On our next episode, I'm going to talk about some of the changes we implemented at the clinic because of COVID-19 and the evaluation we had to do at the clinic because of the virus. So we will dive into that next time. As for the podcast, I have been evaluating how that will go too. I'm going to try to get content regularly. There are a few places you can go to see this content. You can listen here. I'm also going to reactivate the Facebook page, facebook.com/theveterinarypodcast. And I have started a Patreon, patreon.com/theveterinarypodcast. I'm discussing getting some videos going on the Patreon, and I do post scripts on the Patreon. As always, you can email theveterinarypodcast@gmail.com. I appreciate all the listens and interactions before, and hope everyone who has listened before will keep listening, and that all the new listeners will come along for the conversation too. We've got some exciting stuff in the works, both for clients and vet students, and maybe even veterinarians. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.